This is Matt for Into Boxing, delighted to be joined by Eddie Hearn. What an event, it's only Tuesday. Talk me through it. It's not been done by halves, that's it?
It's new levels in Abu Dhabi. I mean, this is what we do globally, but this is a very important week for Matchroom. Big week for Abu Dhabi, big week for the sport of boxing, because you can see, you know, the levels that we're going to create here, going to reach here. Tremendous fight on Saturday, unbelievable fight card. Yeah. And just the beginning for us here with a DCT in this territory, and very lucky to be given this opportunity.
This fight card's received a lot of praise and positivity online. I can't remember who said it, but someone saying this is one of the best cards. Where does this rank in terms of cards you put together? Because it's a cracker.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like Bivol Ramirez is one of the fights of the year. I love Cameron McCaskill. I think style-wise, coming off the back of all these big female fights, you know, obviously Rakhimov was going to fight Cordina, but this has got its own story with Zelfa Barrett going for the world title. The winners, both fighters have signed to fight Joe Cordina should they win on Saturday next. Obviously, Galauya fight, Olympic gold medalist, Kauya fight, Campbell Hatton, Aki Fiaz, local talent as well. I think it's one of the cards of the year.
Let's talk about Cameron McCaskill. That is an absolute firecracker. How pleased you to put that one together?
I mean, we created the tournament really to give Chantel the opportunity to become undisputed, and it's been a slow process because of Callie Reese's illness. And you know, now you've got McCaskill, who doesn't really get the credit, I think, when you look at her achievements, coming in to try and become a two-time undisputed champion. And it's just a brilliant fight. You know, all action. Both girls love to stand and trade. McCaskill don't stop coming forward. Chantel loves to have a fight as well. And I think off the back of a lot of really good female fights, I think that'll be another great one.
Is this where Chantel Cameron sort of becomes that star? Because she sort of had that stop-start with the tournament, but this is the moment for her, isn't it?
Everyone in boxing's always rated her, and everyone's always talked about the Katie Taylor fight. But this is the kind of fight and performance that actually makes people go, we must see that fight, and that's a huge fight, and the winner of that fight will be in a big position to fight Katie Taylor next.
Zelfa Barrett on the card. I mean, he's had a really tough sort of 18 months personally. It's one of them moments where it can sort of not almost make you, but it can motivate you to achieve, and he's in there with an extremely well-rounded fighter in Rakhimov. What do you make of that fight? A terrific opportunity for Zelfa.
Yeah, Rakhimov's a great fighter. He's proven himself to be an elite super featherweight. It's a very tough fight for Zelfa, but Zelfa can punch, he's skillful, and he's in his moment. You know, it's on a plate for him to go and do it, and we'll be right behind him.
Katie Taylor last week, she did her thing. She moves on to what I would think sort of the next biggest thing she can do is, like everyone's saying, the 80,000 in Ireland. That's got to be something you need to, or not need, but want to deliver for her.
Yeah, of course. I feel like, you know, I said in the ring, Ireland has to be next. You know, she's done everything else, and whether it's Serrano, whether it's the Cameron McCaskill winner, whether it's Holly Holm, whoever it could be, Alicia, you know, I feel like that's the next fight for Katie Taylor. Ireland, spring, summer, we must make it happen.
In terms of Serrano, there's not going to be any difficulties there. I know you're going through a legal process with Jake Paul. Is that going to be a stumbling block at all, do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, look, the WBA have ordered also Cruz against Serrano, so you know that might be one for early next year. But I think in general, you know, it's an opportunity for us to make that happen. Whether it's Serrano, whoever it is, we'd like it to be Serrano, but we'll see.
Talking about Jake Paul, what did you make of his knockout? It was obviously against Anderson Silva, 48 years of age, not a professional boxer. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think that obviously he's had 5 fights. That was his 6th. So you know, he hasn't. I think the only thing you can criticise him with is not facing a boxer, and that's fact. But he's still fighting guys who know how to box. I mean, I know Anderson Silva's 48, but I think he's never going to be a world-class fighter, but he's improving. He's dedicating himself to the sport. He's bringing attention to boxing. So on those levels, I think we should respect what he's doing after that amount of fights and the experience that he's had.
When you look at who he's fighting, though, is he fighting better competition? They're considered journeymen. Like a lot of boxers when they start their career, even when you look at the likes of Floyd Mayweather, they don't fight a lot of people winning records when they start. So some of these people he's fighting, would you say maybe better than the average journeyman? And Anderson Silva? Anderson
Silva maybe, you know, but certainly not Ben Askren and people like that. But look, like sometimes when prospects start, they fight very low-level opposition. So I don't think it's too dissimilar, but he should fight boxers now. You know, that's always going to be the criticism that's aimed at him, but he's doing his thing.
Anthony Joshua, now after the Usyk fight, we talked about him being more active, getting out a bit more, at least before the end of the year. We're hearing now it's February. How come it's sort of been pushed back a little bit?
Just because obviously we were working towards a Tyson Fury fight, it didn't happen. I think mentally, you know, we looked at December 17, but I think he'll be out here this week. We're working towards probably February. If it's a bigger fight, he may wait a little bit longer. but you know he wants to get out. But I just think, all things considered, just felt, you know, all of a sudden it becomes 7 weeks, and you know it's a big push. So I feel like February is probably the target date.
We don't hear from Anthony often. I know he's coming out here Thursday, but what's his mindset? How frustrated has he been with this whole process? Like you said, he's been wanting Tyson Fury. It's not happened. We move on again. How, in other words, pissed off is he that this is happening?
It's all right. You know, he's been around a long time. He's experienced all these things before, and he's ready. You know, he wanted that fight. He don't talk a lot on social media. He's still focused. Obviously, he was bitterly disappointed to lose to Usyk, but he's still focused and still looking forward to a big run in the division.
I spoke to Oscar De La Hoya here tonight. He's obviously very buoyant about this main event and said it'll be the biggest win for a Mexican in recent times, including Andy Ruiz. He talked about other fights as well. He mentioned Ryan Garcia, he mentioned Gervonta Davis, and the networks coming together. Do you think that a platform like Showtime will come together with DAZN, who obviously you work with, to make these type of fights?
Probably not, because they don't really want to see the platform get success. So, and they've invested a lot of money in Gervonta Davis, and that's, sometimes you don't want to share that, you know. But there's a very simple deal to be done where that's on both platforms. But clearly someone, and I don't know the ins and outs genuinely, doesn't want that to happen. Otherwise it would happen. So that's the frustration as a promoter. Promoters want big fights. Promoters want to make money. Promoters want to satisfy fans. And sometimes they get blamed for fights not happening. It's not always our fault, and that's probably an example where it's not the promoter's fault.
He's actually confirmed that it's nothing to do with me with the promotion, nothing to do with the fighters. Everyone's on board for the fight. How big of a shame is it now where we're seeing these fights fall through? Spence and Crawford, looks like we're not going to see that fight. Is this sort of giving the YouTube fights and all these other shows more of a leg up to say this will happen even more?
Boxing and content's about ratings, and if something's rating well, then broadcasters are going to continue spending money on it. That could be YouTube, and if you don't make great fights, they won't rate well. So we must continue to make great fights like Zerdo against Bivol and nights like this, because otherwise those YouTube events, which are so, like, quite frankly, you know, I know they're a bit of fun in it, but it's frightening, you know, and I think it will fade out and fade away. But if we don't start making great fights, maybe it becomes more of the norm, so we must work harder.
This event's obviously one of the more positive things that's happened in boxing over the past 3 or 4 weeks. I've seen you mention a lot about, in hindsight, we do things differently in terms of what's going on with the Eubank, the Benn situation. So what I want to ask you is, looking back now, if you could go back in time, what would you do differently whilst all that was happening when you got the results? I know you say you can't stop it.
Nothing really. I mean, like, I feel like it's easy to say we would have liked a quicker decision from the board, because I feel like that would have stopped a lot of the controversy. But at the same time, they had a tough decision because of the science that was being produced to them. Probably, you know, you have to remember, we got that information like an hour before the workout, and we wanted to consider our position at that time. Probably shouldn't have, or probably shouldn't, you know, but we were bullish, we were pissed off. We'd done £1 million. Like, we wondered why the board had taken weeks to make this decision, and now they want to make the decision. We believe they've leaked it to the media. Like, the whole thing stunk, and you know, I feel like maybe the reaction should have been different. But leading up to that, honestly, like, contractually we couldn't pull the fight. We have to wait to see if the board will sanction the fight and get their opinion on the situation, and we waited for that, and that come on Wednesday of fight week.
Wouldn't it be easy if the board just put a thing in place where no matter what, if there's a failed test, the fight ain't going ahead, because it makes your job a bit easier?
But that's the same with all commissions globally. Really, it'd be great if all commissions globally just went, right, any VADA said this is the procedure, but they don't, and that's where you get grey areas, you know, and maybe this will change that.
I hope so. Look, Eddie, thanks for giving us some of your time, and we'll catch up again.
Cheers.